Hello, everyone, and welcome to Keep Indiana Learning's very own couples therapy with your DLCs. My name is Melissa Wally, and I am a DLC, a digital learning coach for Keep Indiana Learning. I also work for Hanover Community Schools as an ed tech specialist and a technology coach. I've been an educator for 25 years and moved to the ed tech space happily 7 years ago. Amy Stevens is one of our other DLCs.
Yay. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Amy Stevens. I am from South Henry School Corporation, representing as not only the Project Lead the Way teacher for grades K through 6, but also the technology integration specialist, predominantly K-5 and moving into that K-12 role. I love being a DLC for Keep Indiana Learning. It brings me in spaces much like this one with Melissa and Diana. And recently, I've added a new title to my email signature as well as to my repertoire. It's Apple Distinguished Educator. And I'm purposely saying that because I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But I'd love to introduce Diana.
I'm Diana Knox. I am also a DLC, and I'm a technology instructional specialist at Clay Community Schools in Brazil, Indiana. In my previous life, before educational technology, I was a Spanish, English, and theater teacher. And I've also been around for about 25 years in this education gig, which is hard to believe. One thing I've learned, though, is that I get by with a little help from my friends, because any job that you do can be very lonely if you're by yourself. But sometimes in this world, when you're one or two coaches in a district, you don't have all those the camaraderie. And so I am eternally grateful for my fellow DLCs, my techie goddesses, as they are in my phone as, because we have a text group of several of us that, man, I could not do this without them. And they are my therapy sometimes when I need it. So these conversations that we're going to start in today, it's going to be good.
Yes. So the three of us had this amazing opportunity to travel together this summer. And we went to a conference specifically for educators. One of the sessions was titled Couples Therapy. And we were like, what is that? That is awesome. We sat in and saw an instructional coach and some teachers just having great conversations, and immediately looked at each other and thought, we have got to bring this to Indiana. So shout out to those who started the idea of couples therapy with instructional coaches and classroom teachers, because we are lifting you up. We are paying it forward to those here in Indiana. But, we started thinking about sessions that we could do together, the three of us, to service you, our educators, our amazing, people that are out every day with children and families and each other and admin and all the things. So urgent and important came to top of mind. And I started thinking about this, me personally, and it was, this quote came to mind. Like, if you decide to do it your best, or everything you do it with everything. And that kind of seems like, Melissa and Diana, I don't know if you guys are feeling like this, but like, it kind of seems like how I've been rolling lately. Like, I mentioned the Apple Distinguished Educator thing. I was like, I'm doing this. Like, I am going for this. I'm going to decide to do it. I'm going to do my best. Everything that I do as a teacher, I'm going to do it with everything. So that meant I wanted to get a certification. I wanted to do this. I didn't know. Are you feeling that way too?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I love it. Well, if you think about urgent tasks and important tasks, I mean, guys, that's our world, right? Like, we deal every day with tasks coming across our desk, but most importantly, our world is driven by other people's children, and they are so much more important than a task, right? Like, we get to be the humans that get to be with other people's humans all day. And so these tasks help us guide the day. They help us guide ourselves personally. They help us guide ourselves professionally, as well as the environments that we're in. And so it's oftentimes I find myself in conversation with teachers about, I have so much to do. I'm going to be here all night. I came in on Saturday. I'm working until midnight. I'm bringing it home with me. And that's when I was like, okay, wait, we need to stop and let's just quickly look at important and urgent. And so I did a little search and I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to do the search and then share what the search said. So hear me out. Important tasks are those that align with your goals, values, and vision. They have a long-term impact and they contribute to your success and satisfaction. Urgent tasks are those that demand your immediate attention and action. They have short-term impact and often involve pressure, deadlines, or crises, which I'm giggling because there's never been a crisis, right? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No. So when I'm sitting there thinking about it, I love for us to take in that quick definition of urgent versus important. And then maybe, Diana, could you help us dive in deeper to them independent of each other?
Absolutely. The English teacher in me loves this stuff. So when we think about them, they're both adjectives. So when we think about urgent, urgent is a state or a situation that requires immediate action or attention. To use it in a sentence for some context, the situation is far more urgent than the politicians are admitting. It can also be, when we talk about an event or an action, it's done or arranged in response to a pressing or critical situation. She needs urgent treatment. And then when we talk about a person or their manner, earnest and persistent in response to a pressing situation. So like an urgent whisper. So urgent, you have that sense of this must be dealt with and it must be dealt with right now because time is of the essence. Important, that is when we look at it and break it down, it's of great significance or value, which is likely to have a profound effect on success, survival, or well-being. So using that in context, important habitats for wildlife. They wouldn't survive without these habitats. When we talk about a person, of having high rank or status, an important senator. And then when we think about an artist or artistic work, significant. It's a significantly original and influential. Writers as important as Robert Frost, for example. And so when you think about it in those contexts, you can really start to kind of glean the differences between urgent and important. And then we can start to take it even further when we start to apply the meaning to our profession or our jobs.
Yeah. So I really thought about like, what is important? Because if everything is important, then nothing is important. And that's something I think about a lot when I look at all that I have to do or all of the initiatives that we have going on. And if we just treat everything the same with the same importance, then nothing rises to the top. So it does help a little bit with my overwhelm when I try to pick out, okay, what do I need to tackle first, or what do I need to give the most attention to? And so knowing that I almost always have this growing list of things to do, or things I should have already done, and then things that I want to do. And those are usually the things that end up getting ditched off my list, unfortunately, because there is only so much time. But when we think about those tasks, and Amy, you kind of alluded to that, like when we say tasks, it's just kind of a generic term. I'm not thinking of tasks like this, arbitrary term. It's just a word filler right there. But when we think about these tasks that are important, these are the tasks that might be listed in your planner or on your to-do list. They are probably not quick to complete and cross off your list, such as returning a phone call or scheduling an email would be. Important tasks are those that may have an impact on others and are more significant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I go back to, I love how we just drilled it down. Good job, ladies. I love that because I'm thinking about like important, I'm associating long-term impact, urgent, short-term impact. So those to-do lists and those, I love that you just said, if everything's important, then nothing's important. If your to-do lists are filled with everything that you think is important, then you're right, nothing is going to be important, but yet things do need to get done. At the end of the day, things do need to get done. And we need to have that space of clarity. So lo and behold, I don't know if like the interwebs were listening, but this infographic came across my feed. And it happened to come across from an author, Adam Grant. And Adam Grant has been an author recently that I read the book Think Again, and I'm currently reading Hidden Potential. Love the viewpoint that come through his writing. So lifting up Adam Grant, but also in this graphic that you see, thank you so much. He was highlighting and lifting up, how we might think of urgent versus important. So taking a look and just seeing how it's set up as a quadrant, you'll see that there's also a little flow chart on the other side, but just zooming into the quadrant part of it. If it's urgent and important, maybe you're feeling overwhelmed and you notice that you procrastinate. If it's important but not urgent, maybe you make plans to do it later, but you think about it nonstop. It is always top of mind. Okay, now, if it's urgent, but it's not really important, we could tend maybe to overinflate its importance and then melt in a puddle of panic. Not urgent, not important. Doing it right away, I spend hours on it. Notice I inserted I. I am currently, this just spoke to me. Ladies, I don't know how many different things maybe in your professional world popped into mind as like, oh, that's urgent. Oh, that's important. Oh, that's urgent, not important. Oh, that's important, not urgent. But there are a few big projects that are urgent, important, that I am feeling a little overwhelmed. And I tend to procrastinate it a little bit because many reasons. But I also have some not urgent, not important tasks. And let me just tell you, my toilets are very clean. My house is vacuumed. And those are, they are important for cleanliness. I understand. But in compared to maybe what I might be defining as urgent, important, I'm tending to spend more time on those not urgent, not important. Why is that? Oh my goodness gracious. What do you guys think?
Well, don't you think that some of it has to do with the idea that we can check it off of the list? Whether we make a physical list or a mental list, or in my case, I am guilty of a Google Keep list for home and a Google Keep list for school. And when I look at it and I look at all of the things that I need to do, I immediately focus on what can I eliminate quickly.
Well, I'm telling you, as much as my carpet needs to be vacuumed, it's not screaming for my attention. So it's not urgent. And, as much as I do like to maintain and, cleanliness and have, the upkeep of my home, my goals, values, and visions, that we just defined as important. So it's like, you're right, Diana. It's easy to just vacuum and check it off the list. And then all of a sudden I'm like, that felt good to take something off my plate.
Right. And that's okay sometimes.
It is, absolutely. Sometimes you need that because it can feed your motivation down the line. But I think too, and I think I can maybe speak for all three of us when I say this, we are perfectionists. We're detail oriented. We are used to people turning to us for answers. And I think any classroom teacher can feel like that because you have all of these people that need your information. And when you move into being a coach out of the classroom, it's the same kind of thing. Your clientele just changes. And if you move into administration, it's still the same. You have all these people that rely on you for answers. And so it's this pressure of, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to let people down. I don't want to fail. And it can just magnify itself till you get to a point where, and I said this before we got on, I called Melissa yesterday and I said, oh, I'm about to melt down. I'm not sure how I can manage everything that I need to do. Because right now I'm in position where I have a lot of urgent, important tasks and I don't have a lot of time to do it.
Yeah.
And they really, truly, I'm not inflating their importance. There are truly some urgent and important tasks. I'm not sure how I'm going to manage it because I've also been trying very consciously to have a healthier work-life balance.
I love that you just said that, because as classroom teachers, I mentioned earlier, we're in charge of other people's humans. And so every single one of those humans has a grown-up, right? And that grown-up probably looks at you as the classroom teacher as the only person, and their child is the only child in that teacher's class. Yet the teacher's got a totally different viewpoint. So the teacher's having to really educate the families. Like, if you come to me with a request or with a need, please know that your child is not my only child that I'm managing. You've got, depending upon the grade level, you could have up to hundreds of kids, right? And then think about it as an instructional coach. You've got many teachers who come to you. You are their one person, but you as the one person are managing many different staff members. And so this conversation keeps coming up. And I thought, oh my goodness gracious, it applies to so many things other than just a to-do list.
And that's why I think we were like, we've got to get this message out. This is why we wanted other educators to hear this. I feel very fortunate because some friends share funny memes and jokes and you get those texts, but Amy, Diana, and I share images to inspire one another. And so I know, like, if I get a text from one of these two, it's going to be quality content. And this image came through, I think it was a Sunday, if I remember correctly, and Amy sent it. And as we've gotten to know one another, we share these stories about how we are procrastinating. And I use that in quotes now because now that I have more knowledge about this chart, I don't really think it quite is procrastinating. And it was funny to find out like these similarities between us, because I know when I'm extremely overwhelmed, I have to do something with my physical space. I have to organize, I have to clean something, rearrange furniture, something like that. Amy has to clean her toilets.
I do. Weird.
Diana has her own coping strategies. But what it really comes down to is, how do we handle our tasks and our overwhelm? And how are we giving our brains a break and then doing that reset so we can come back and do some of our urgent, important tasks with a fresh mindset? So we've had many conversations about this and decided it would be helpful to share this information, because it really isn't always procrastination. Sometimes it is, but it's necessary to allow yourself to have that and manage your workload and your hard tasks in the best way for yourself. Because I know I beat myself up for years about being a procrastinator, but now I know, like, this is just what I need to do to function. This is just who I am. And I have to push myself sometimes to focus on the urgent, important tasks. I can't just rely upon, that's just how I am. No, that doesn't work. And I have to filter out that noise and get down to it. So now I have this quote that I tell myself. Sometimes they say, like, done is better than perfect, which is totally the opposite of who I want to be, because I want things to be perfect and I want it to be, I want what I do to always be the best. But sometimes done really is better than perfect. Like, you get it done and you crossed off your list, and it is what it is. But being aware of what you need is really what's necessary to get things done.
I love that you just said that, because something that has come to mind is, might be a surprise, maybe not to you, but I can be a yes person and say yes lots, which sometimes can cause procrastination because I said yes to too much. And it's not that I'm not capable of doing all of it. It's just when you drill down to urgent or important, yes, I said yes to you, but it's not urgent. Yes, I said yes to you, and it's maybe not my same definition of important. And so that's been a really interesting conversation with myself. Like, why am I procrastinating? Is it because I just literally cannot get to it yet? Like, Diana, you were mentioning, like there's just not enough time, or I'm working on like next because of due date, right?
Mhm.
Or is it that I said yes to too much and I made everything feel important?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good time when, like, looking back at that graphic that we were sharing, that flow chart, because we're all guilty of being yes people. We're all guilty of wanting to be helpful. And sometimes I have to remind myself that some of the yeses I say aren't necessarily something that I should be taking on. And so I think about this flow chart, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I'm interested in that. I think it's a great idea. I do not have the capacity to do it right now. So that if it is something that is urgent, I'm not your girl. I could do it later. I would be interested in it later. But if it is urgent, I have to pass. And I think those are the things that we have to start to think about. And because when we say yes to others, we're saying no to ourselves sometimes. And if we say no to ourselves too often, the cliche of you can't pour from an empty cup is not, it's a cliche for a reason, because it's true. And you have to say yes to yourself sometimes. So don't be afraid to think about this of, do I want to do it? If the answer is no, say no. If I kind of want to do it, that's really kind of a no. Don't talk yourself into it. If I want to do it, yes, but I don't have the capacity to do it right now, then you say no. Like, really think about what's on your plate and how you handle it. And right now work is busy. I think all three of us feel this. And then we all have personal lives too. And right now I'm in a season of life where both of my parents are needing assistance and help because of medical challenges they're having. Whereas I'm used to not having that. My parents have been healthy and independent, and I can work ridiculous hours because it has brought me joy, because I love my job. And right now I love my parents, and I'm saying yes to my parents, which means I'm saying no to my job, and that's okay. But it's stressing me out.
Yeah. I love that you walked us through that, because I too have said yes to a lot of professional things, not even considering how those yeses would impact my personal time. And so right at this minute, I've got another human taking my son to practice so that, I can be here because I said yes. But here's the thing, for a practice, my son and I had a great conversation, and I said, I will be at your games and I will take you to 9 out of 10 practices. But this one practice, I need help because I said yes to something and it is important to me. Mm-hmm. And being, to have just continuing to put yourself through that flow chart, right?
Yep.
And knowing that I gave this quote, and it's a longer quote, but the end of it was basically, when you make a decision, make the best decision in the moment, and then take another step forward. And it's come back into my thought process many times of, I made that decision, I made the best decision in that moment, and now I'm going to take a step forward and just continue in a good way, knowing that I've got an amazing village that is there to link arms, to lift me up, to talk me through, to lend a voice, to lend, a hug, whatever might be needed. So we invite you to truly think about this. And when this stream is posted, we definitely will include just maybe an opportunity to communicate, maybe an opportunity to collaborate, because that's what this time is meant to be, is to just get your wheels spinning and be thinking about the topics that we're thinking about. And we're like, well, if we're thinking about them, then definitely everyone else is thinking about them, maybe in some form. And we're just happy to be part of that village where we encourage you to, this is going to sound kind of silly, but like, just triage your situation. So with this, triage your situation, like what's important and what's urgent, and how are you putting yourself through those flow charts as you take a look at that quadrant.